Now welcome to another edition of Battle of the Heroes and Villains, where this time we'll be taking a look at the results of the poll for Kreia, or Darth Traya. We'll then see where she ranks or how she compares to all the other characters we've done thus far, before I then read and respond to some of your comments. But before any and all that, you can already head down to nominate and or vote for which character we do next, or which character we'll do after Boba Fett, who we're redoing right now after the conclusion of his series, and the video for him for that poll should be up in the next few days. Anyway, to nominate the one after him, just respond to my pinned comment with a character name and or vote with a thumbs up if the one you'd like to see is already listed. Whatever single comment gets the most votes in the next 24 hours will be the winner and the one we do next. Okay, and on to the results now for Darth Traya, where we'll see that 50% or half of all voters gave her an A, 23% then put her in the B tier, 15% went with C, 4% then gave her a D, and a final 8% gave her an F. And so when we do all the math here and consider A a score of 5 and F a score of 1, that means Darth Traya ends up with an average score of 4.03, which actually puts her into a tie for 27th place overall with Jango Fett, but she gets the edge over him since our tiebreaker is who had a higher percentage of first place votes, which in this case was Traya. Okay, so moving on, and before we get to your comments, it is going to have to be confession time for me, because you see, I haven't played KOTOR 2, where this character is of course from. I haven't played it since it first came out almost, well, probably like 20 years ago at this point, which seems hard to believe, but I suppose it is, since I think it was December of 2004 that it came out. Anyway, even back then I didn't really get into this game that much, not because it wasn't good or anything like that, but because I just didn't have a ton of time at that particular point in my life, and so I ended up kind of playing it sporadically over the course of a few weeks until I finally finished it. That said, it's a game I've been meaning to play again for a very, very long time, basically since I got done with it the first time and realized I hardly got into it. And so over on my second channel, I just started to play through the first Knights of the Old Republic game, which is a game I have played multiple times because I absolutely love that game. It is one of my favorite games, Star Wars or otherwise, of all time. Anyway, when I'm done with that one, I'm going to go back and finally play the second one again, and I will be doing a playthrough of it on the second channel. And then I'll probably be doing many, many more Star Wars games after that, with the goal of replaying them all or playing some of them for the first time, which will probably take the rest of my life. So anyway, if you're interested in watching any of that, I'll put a link to my second channel in the comments below, along with the character poll, which will be down there. Just know that Let's Plays are a very new style of video for me, and something I'm still trying to figure out and get the hang of, so do please cut me some slack if you check it out. I promise I'll get better at it in time, and I'm open to advice or suggestions on how to make that happen. All that said, I'm pretty much only going to read comments in this video with the promise of making a very comprehensive Crea video in the near future, as well as probably plenty of other Knights of the Old Republic videos, both here and on the second channel. Like I said, the first one is one of my favorite games of all time, probably my favorite Star Wars game without a doubt, and I've been meaning to play the second one again, and that is finally going to happen. Okay, so confessions and shameless plug for my second channel out of the way. Let's now get to your comments, but not before just once again saying thank you to everyone who votes, comments, and watches these videos or any of my videos. It is all greatly appreciated. Also, a big, big thank you to everyone who supports this channel over on Patreon. Alright, so now to finally kick this off, let's begin as we always do with the top-rated comment, which this time came to us from Derek Lopez, who said, Darth Traya is honestly one of the most compelling, dark, mysterious, and influential Sith Lords in Star Wars. Her story is probably one of the best well-written stories when it comes to a meta discussion of the Force in-universe, whether agreeing or disagreeing with her nihilistic view of the Force. Also, her views of the Jedi and Sith is one that needed to be stated, that both Jedi and Sith are inherently obsessed over their powers and religious tenets to be anything but a detriment to society. My rating for Darth Traya is a solid A. Okay, so all I can say in response to this is I can't wait to play this game again, because even though, yes, I can remember quite a bit about my first playthrough, the big problem is the first time I played it was, again, 2004 or whenever it came out, and though I loved Star Wars, I've loved Star Wars my whole life, obviously, I don't really know how philosophical I was about Star Wars at that point. I was just enjoying the prequels at this point in time, and really wasn't questioning what Star Wars meant on a deeper level back then. So that was maybe part of the reason I didn't get into the game, actually, which sounds crazy considering nowadays it's probably the reason I will get into the game. Anyway, long story short, I can't wait to play it again because I can't wait to kind of maybe debate Traya, because there are things that I remember, and I've heard other people, of course, quoting her, that I will agree with, but there are other things I will definitely disagree with. So hopefully in a few weeks I will have an epic video. Maybe not the 3-hour long epic video that I know, I can't think of the YouTuber who made it, but maybe not quite that long, but hopefully something worth the wait. Alright, and next up here we have this comment from Blue Diamond Director, who was just a few votes shy of taking top rated comment for the 3rd week in a row. Anyway, they had this to say. Okay, here we go for a 3rd time on here, LOL. Darth Traya, aka Kreia, is one of the more unique characters in Star Wars. The writers of KOTOR 2 had a tough act to follow after the success of Revan's story in the first game, but here I think they succeeded. Traya is a very unconventional Jedi/Sith. She actually admits that she hates the Force, she hates that it has a will, and seems to guide the galaxy into a form of balance. She wishes she had complete free will instead of being bound to the will of the Force. This is unique for the villain in Star Wars, as Palpatine was all about thinking he could control everything and use the Force to manipulate everything. With Traya, we have almost the opposite. She is the kind of villain I wish the sequels had someone to change the hero's view of the Force or on the Force and the Jedi Order and how things are done. Like Thor Skywalker on here has said in his videos, the sequels could have been all about Luke deciding how to run his Jedi Order, whether love should be forbidden or not, because while Anakin's love seemingly brought down the Jedi Order, selfish love, his love for his son and sacrifice brought it back, selfless love. So to have a villain with the viewpoint of Traya to challenge even viewing the Force as a good thing would have been great. Traya's view of the galaxy repeating the cycle over and over would also explain how the PT, OT, and ST seem to reflect each other. As a certain man once said, it's like poetry, it rhymes. Okay, I've rambled on long enough. The best advice I can give on Traya is to watch the video, The Philosophy of Crea, a critical examination of Star Wars, and that of course was the video I was just referring to. Okay, and moving on now, we have this comment from Gregory B, who said, A. KOTOR 2 is up there with Watchmen in terms of great deconstructions. The reason I say that is because KOTOR 2, through Crea, does a great job of deconstructing the Jedi, the Sith, and the Force itself without disrespecting the genre or the source material. She brings a different, critical perspective that does challenge the player/viewer, but the canonical ending proves her wrong in the end. The point is that she does make you think about the way the Force works and does prompt you to question the order of things, but you're never made to feel stupid for holding to your status quo or to the status quo. Kreia is unique among Sith Lords in that her desire for power stems from a desire to destroy said power. The idea of the Force as an oppressor with the galaxy a slave to its will is a deconstructive approach to Star Wars that Kreia brought to the table perfectly. I don't agree with Kreia's philosophy, but it was one of the most interesting and refreshing takes on Star Wars that has come out on any platform. Next up then, we have a comment from, well, Kreia herself, who said, "Finally, this is the one I was waiting for this entire series. To me, she is easily the best written and most interesting character, not only in Star Wars, but all of fiction that I have witnessed. Her philosophy and ideals are incredibly deep, especially considering she is from a video game of the early 2000s and she single-handedly makes the Force and therefore the entire Star Wars setting infinitely more exciting. I think that is what I find most fascinating about her. Somehow her story gives a completely different view on everything in Star Wars, and maybe even the real world, but it is in no way a must-see. Knowing about her just enhances the entire Star Wars experience on a very profound level." Moving on then, we have this comment from Michael, who simply said, "Before we had everyone tell us what to think, she taught us how to think." Then we also have this one from Number Name, who said, "Kreia is the deepest character in Star Wars along with the whole cast of KOTOR 2. Kreia is interesting in the fact that she has a unique view on the Force. She hates it. She views the Force as a cruel god dominating the will of others, enslaving them down presented paths, destroying free will. Kreia is unique in that she is not Star Wars' greatest villain, but its greatest critic, A+ from me." Also have this comment from Tommy Tucker, who said, "Even after all these years and countless replays, I'm still not sure she's actually a villain or an anti-hero. That's how well her character was written. Easy A." Also then this one from Wes Bradley Topner, who said, "Easy an S-tier character. There is way too much to say about what makes her such an interesting character. She has one of the most interesting philosophies in any game and she has the most based perspective of the Force out of everyone in the franchise. She acknowledges that the Jedi aren't as great as they think they are, and that the Sith aren't as horrible as they seem. The Force is what causes the conflict in the galaxy and causes so many deaths. Traya was one of the few who understood this concept and acted as a perfect example of a chaotic neutral. On top of that, she's crazy intelligent. Her planning and manipulation abilities rival Sidious, Plagueis, and Bane as she orchestrated the deaths of two of the most powerful Sith Lords in history, who were thought to be incapable of death. Lastly, she's the master of Revan, Nihilus, and Sion, who are three of the most powerful beings in Star Wars, and she uses 3 purple lightsabers simultaneously with the Force. Lots of badass points there. A+++. Alright, and next up here we have this one from Vetterlit Torf, who said, aside from being the most quotable character in Star Wars, my personal favorite being apathy is death, and probably the first case of Star Wars acknowledging its never-ending good versus evil conflict, Darth Traya, better known by her alias Kreia, is also the best written Star Wars character because her dialogue and beliefs actually engage with the omnipresent influence of the universe that is usually viewed in stark black and white. She rejects the idea of a Force user necessarily falling into the categories of Jedi or Sith, and forces Mitra Surik to consider her viewpoint. I think what brings her character home, besides the amazing Shakespearean-like performance or voice performance of Sarah Kestelman, is the substance behind her style. While she could have easily been a contrarian, gray character who denounces both sides, she offers a clear alternative. Her most important teaching is that she doesn't want anyone to rely on strength that does not belong to them, such as the Force. Another one of her teachings is that you should not tie yourself down to one belief. Be principled, but be willing to betray those principles. Think for yourself and don't become emotionally dependent on others. Be strategic, assess your own goals, cultivate your own strength, and confront your weakness. That is how she mentored Mitra Surik, and possibly how she mentored Revan. In many ways, Kreia and her philosophy is a deconstruction of Star Wars mythos, and far more thought-provoking and engaging than what Rian Johnson tried to do with Luke in The Last Jedi. For Kreia, there is nothing you, quote-unquote, should do because it is the right thing to do or your duty to do so. Rather, you should position yourself at all times in a position of power to ensure that you are able to maximize your end goals regardless of what creed you take. So the common example is the Nar Shaddaa beggar. She doesn't want Mitra to just give him money when he asks, because there's no telling how that will end. Maybe it will make things worse, such as making him a target for other beggars to make him dependent on charity, thus depriving him of the strength to help himself. She wants her to wait, come to a greater understanding, and then pick the choice that maximizes the desired goal. Kreia's most valuable contribution to the Star Wars lore, I think, is making us understand that picking the obvious right thing to do may not produce the best consequences. Thus, our two moral systems, the right thing to do and the best result, sometimes conflict. What's even more interesting about her is that, as wise as she is still trying to understand the great mystery of the Force, even if her ultimate goal is to end the Force, or at least Force sensitivity, for good, since she believes the Force is an evil entity that strips life of freedom, twists people, and manipulates events all in the name of achieving a measure of balance with no regard for life. But whether that's true or not is irrelevant, because what's important is that her beliefs make us question the Force and delve deeper into the mythos. She finds Mitra Surik so fascinating specifically because she willingly gave up the Force, which in Kreia's mind validates her belief that one can live without the Force. That is only the tip of Kreia's philosophical iceberg, and I won't write it all down because I would end up writing a book. A from me. And finally here we have this comment from SmartAlec2001 who said, "Don't get me wrong, I think Kreia is worthy of an A, but I think she's not meant to be taken at face value, and that her ideas are terribly flawed and driven by her own experiences and resentment." Firstly, she's a historian, and this informs some of the things she believes. She imposes a historian's view of the patterns of history, and she insists there's a direct will and an intent to the Force, when it's very possible that the will of the Force is only a metaphor for the natural flow of events, engines, and relationships, something The Last Jedi Luke suggests. The idea of being mindful of your actions and the effects isn't anything new, it's Jedi 101. I think she believes the will of the Force is malevolent because of her personal suffering. She wants someone to blame for it besides herself. This historian's view also informs her veneration of the past, her insistence that the Jedi and Sith of ages past were somehow much greater than the Sith and Jedi of today. I think this is, again, a warped historian's view, looking back on golden ages with rose-tinted goggles, not seeing their flaws, but also a reflected sense of pride, because when she claims that the Force users of olden days were so much greater, what she's really claiming is that she's wiser than everyone else for knowing that. Her view of the Jedi and the Sith as two opposed forces of light and dark isn't quite what they're about, as the Jedi seem more about opening themselves up and feeling the world around them, acting as if they were a part of the world, while the Sith set themselves apart from the world, atop it in fact, and grip the Force in their own will. I get the sense that even as a Jedi, Aaron K., she was already quite cynical and closed, gradually falling into herself. When the Masters say that her teachings have led students astray, they're right. She pushes people to believe everything they have been taught is wrong, and then doesn't give them anything to believe in place of it, letting them flounder. Her Ichani upbringing informs that too, in that she believes that ideas and people only find definition in conflict. She doesn't seem to believe in quiet self-improvement or personal reflection. She can only be an antagonist either as an opponent or as a teacher. She goes so far as to set herself up as the final villain in grand Ichani and Sith style, believing that the only way the exile could ever be ready is by beating her. And all this is why she becomes the Lord of Betrayal. Just as Sion is pain personified and Nihilus inflicts his hunger everywhere, Kreia cannot help but betray and ruin everyone around her. She's betrayed the Jedi, the Sith, she betrays the exile many times. Almost everything she says is deceptive and misleading in some way, and most importantly, she's betrayed herself multiple times. Well, that's all I've got for you this time. All this video has done for me, all reading this has done is just really made me want to get to this game and replay it and to discuss it. But for now, it's your turn to discuss it in the comments below, to discuss this character in the comments below, and tell me what you think of Kreia. Or you can feel free to nominate and or vote for which character we do next. Either way, leave a comment below and let's talk some Star Wars. And until next time, thanks for watching.